Long before modern science existed, people still needed ways to solve crimes. In ancient times, there were no laboratories, no microscopes, and no trained forensic experts. Instead, people relied on simple observations, common sense, and sometimes even superstition. When a crime happened, leaders or elders in the community would try to find the truth by asking questions and watching how people behaved. They believed that a guilty person would act differently, such as avoiding eye contact or showing fear. These early methods were not always accurate, but they were the first steps toward what we now call forensic science. In places like ancient China, Egypt, and Rome, people began to develop basic ideas about investigating crimes. For example, in ancient China, there was a famous case where a man was murdered with a sickle. The investigator asked all the villagers to bring their sickles and place them on the ground. At first, all the tools looked clean, but soon flies gathered around one sickle because of tiny traces of blood that could not be seen easily. This helped the investigator identify the killer. This simple method showed the importance of careful observation, even without advanced tools. During these early times, people also used the human body as evidence. They looked at wounds to understand how a person died. In some cases, doctors or healers were asked to examine bodies and give their opinions. This was one of the first signs of medical knowledge being used in crime investigations. However, their understanding was limited, and many conclusions were based on guesses rather than facts. Even so, these efforts helped people begin to connect science with solving crimes. Another important idea that developed was the use of written records. Some societies started to document crimes and punishments. By writing down details, they could compare cases and learn from past experiences. This helped create a sense of order and fairness. It also allowed investigators to look for patterns, even if they did not fully understand them at the time. Slowly, people began to see that solving crimes required more than just accusations. It needed evidence. Despite these early developments, many investigations were still influenced by fear and belief in supernatural forces. In some cultures, people believed that gods or spirits would reveal the truth. Trials could involve strange methods, like forcing suspects to go through painful tests to prove their innocence. These practices often led to unfair results. Still, they showed that people were searching for ways to discover the truth, even if they did not yet have the right tools or knowledge. As time passed, the need for better methods became clear. Communities grew larger, and crimes became more complex. Simple observation and belief were no longer enough. People started to question old ways and look for more reliable methods. This growing curiosity and desire for truth slowly pushed society toward new ideas and better techniques, opening the door to changes that would shape the future of forensic science. As time moved forward into the Middle Ages, the way people investigated crimes began to change slowly, but not always for the better. During this period, many societies were strongly influenced by religion and tradition. People believed that truth could be revealed by a higher power rather than by careful investigation. Because of this, crime solving often depended on methods that were not scientific at all. For example, trials by ordeal were common. A person accused of a crime might be asked to hold a hot iron or place their hand in boiling water. If their wounds healed quickly, they were believed to be innocent. If not, they were seen as guilty. These methods were painful and unfair, but at the time, people trusted them. Even though many of these practices were not based on logic, there were still small steps toward better thinking. Some individuals began to question these methods and look for more reasonable ways to solve crimes. In certain parts of the world, especially in the Islamic Golden Age and parts of Asia, scholars started to study medicine, chemistry, and observation more carefully. This period, often called the Early Renaissance, encouraged people to think differently. Scholars began to study nature, the human body, and physical evidence with more curiosity. They started to believe that truth could be discovered through careful study and observation rather than fear or belief alone. This change in thinking was very important because it prepared the way for modern science, including forensic science. One interesting development during this time was the early use of fingerprints, although people did not fully understand them yet. In some places, fingerprints were used as a way to sign documents. people noticed that each person's fingerprints were different, even if they did not yet know how to use them in solving crimes. This simple observation would later become one of the most powerful tools in forensic investigations. There were also early attempts to study poisons and how they affected the body. Poisoning was a common method of crime during this time, especially among powerful families. Because of this, some individuals began to study different substances and their effects. They tried to understand how poisons worked and how they could be detected. Although their methods were basic, this was the beginning of forensic toxicology, which would later become a key part of crime investigation. Despite these advancements, many challenges still existed. Communication was slow, and knowledge did not spread easily from one place to another. Many people still believed in superstition and resisted new ideas. This made progress slow and uneven. In some regions, scientific thinking was encouraged, while in others, old beliefs remained strong. As a result, forensic science did not develop at the same pace everywhere. However, the most important change during this period was the shift in mindset. People slowly began to move from blind belief to questioning and observation. They started to ask how and why things happened. This curiosity led to new discoveries and better methods. Even though the tools were still simple, the way people thought about crime and evidence was beginning to change. As the Middle Ages came to an end, the world was ready for a new era of learning and discovery. The ideas that began during this time would grow stronger and more advanced. People would continue to build on these early efforts, developing new techniques and tools that would make crime investigation more accurate and reliable. This slow but important progress set the stage for a major transformation in the years that followed, where science would finally take a central role in solving crimes. The 1800s marked a turning point in the history of forensic science. During this time, the world began to change quickly because of new discoveries in science and technology. People no longer depended only on guesses, beliefs, or forced confessions to solve crimes. Instead, they started using scientific methods to find real evidence. This period is often called the birth of modern forensic science because many important ideas and tools were developed that are still used today. One of the biggest changes in this time was the growing importance of observation and careful study. Scientists began to understand that every crime leaves behind clues, even if they are very small. These clues could be found on the body, at the crime scene, or even on objects connected to the crime. Investigators started to look more closely at these details. They realized that nothing should be ignored, because even the smallest piece of evidence could help solve a case. During the 1800s, medicine also improved greatly. Doctors gained a better understanding of the human body and how it works. This helped them examine injuries more accurately and determine the cause of death with greater confidence. Autopsies became more common and more detailed. Instead of simply guessing how a person died, doctors could now explain it using scientific knowledge. This development was very important because it allowed courts to rely on medical facts rather than opinions. Another major step forward was the study of toxicology, which is the study of poisons. Poisoning had been a common crime for many years, but it was often difficult to prove. In the 1800s, scientists discovered ways to detect poisons in the human body. One important method allowed investigators to identify arsenic, a poison that was widely used at the time. This meant that criminals could no longer easily escape punishment by using poison. Toxicology became a powerful tool in solving crimes and protecting innocent people. At the same time, new ideas about identifying individuals began to appear. Before this period, it was very difficult to prove that a specific person had committed a crime. Many cases depended on witnesses who could be wrong or dishonest. In the 1800s, people began to look for ways to identify individuals using physical evidence. This led to the study of body measurements and other unique features. Although these early methods were not perfect, they showed that every person is different and can be identified using science. Photography also played an important role during this time. For the first time, investigators could capture images of crime scenes and suspects. This helped them keep accurate records and study details later. Photographs made it easier to share information and compare evidence. They also helped courts understand what happened during a crime. This was a big improvement over relying only on written descriptions, which could be unclear or incomplete. Another important development was the organization of police forces and crime investigation units. Governments began to see the need for trained professionals who could handle investigations properly. Police officers started to receive training, and special units were created to focus on solving crimes. These units used scientific methods and worked more carefully than before. This made investigations more reliable and increased the chances of finding the truth. The idea of using fingerprints also began to grow during the late 1800s. People had known for some time that fingerprints were unique, but now they started to study them more seriously. Researchers began to classify different types of fingerprint patterns and understand how they could be used to identify individuals. This was a major breakthrough because it provided a simple and reliable way to connect a person to a crime scene. Although fingerprinting would become more widely used in the early 1900s, its foundation was built during this period. Despite all these advancements, challenges still existed. Not everyone accepted these new methods right away. Some people were used to older ways of thinking and did not trust science. In some cases, courts were slow to accept scientific evidence. Investigators also faced difficulties because tools and equipment were still limited compared to today. However, the progress made during this time was too important to ignore. Slowly, more people began to see the value of using science in solving crimes. What made the 1800s truly special was the change in attitude. People started to believe that truth could be discovered through careful study, testing, and evidence. This was very different from earlier times, when fear and belief often guided decisions. Science brought a sense of fairness and accuracy to the justice system. It helped protect innocent people and made it harder for criminals to escape punishment. As the century came to an end, forensic science had grown into a serious field of study. It was no longer just an idea or a simple practice. It had become a system based on knowledge, observation, and evidence. Investigators now had better tools, better training, and a better understanding of how to solve crimes. However, this was only the beginning. Many new discoveries and improvements were still to come, and they would continue to shape the future of forensic science in ways that people at that time could only imagine. As the world entered the early 1900s, forensic science began to grow faster than ever before. The ideas developed in the 1800s were now being improved and used in real investigations. One of the most important changes during this time was the wide use of fingerprints. Scientists had already discovered that every person has unique fingerprints, but now this idea was put into practice. Police departments started to collect and store fingerprint records. This made it easier to compare prints found at crime scenes with those of suspects. For the first time, investigators had a reliable way to connect a person directly to a crime. Fingerprinting quickly became a powerful tool. Investigators could now solve cases that were once very difficult. Even if there were no witnesses, a fingerprint left on an object could tell a story. It could show who touched a weapon or who was present at a crime scene. This method was simple but very effective. Because of this, many countries adopted fingerprint systems, and it became a standard part of criminal investigations. Another major development during this time was the creation of forensic laboratories. Before this, most investigations were done in the field or with very basic tools. Now, special laboratories were built where scientists could study evidence in a controlled environment. These labs allowed experts to examine things like blood, hair, and fibers more carefully. They could use microscopes and chemical tests to learn more about each piece of evidence. This made investigations more accurate and scientific. Even with all these improvements, challenges still remained. Some people were slow to trust these new methods, especially in courts. Lawyers sometimes questioned the accuracy of scientific evidence. However, as more cases were solved using these techniques, confidence grew. People began to see that forensic science could provide clear and reliable answers. This period marked a strong step forward in the use of science in crime solving. With fingerprints and forensic laboratories, investigations became more detailed and accurate. The foundation was now stronger than ever, and new ideas were continuing to develop, leading to even more advanced methods that would change forensic science in the years ahead. As the world moved into the late 1900s, forensic science reached a new and powerful stage. The biggest breakthrough during this time was the discovery and use of DNA. DNA is the unique genetic code found in every human being. Scientists learned that, just like fingerprints, no two people have the same DNA, except identical twins. This discovery changed forensic science completely because it gave investigators a very accurate way to identify individuals. DNA could be found in many places, such as blood, hair, saliva, or skin cells. Even a very small sample could be enough to identify a person. This meant that evidence left at a crime scene could now be tested in a laboratory to find out exactly who it belonged to. For example, if a criminal left behind a drop of blood, scientists could match it to a suspect with great accuracy. This made it much harder for criminals to escape justice. One of the most important uses of DNA was not only to catch criminals, but also to prove when someone was innocent. In the past, some people were wrongly accused or even punished for crimes they did not commit. With DNA testing, old cases could be reopened and reviewed. Many innocent people were freed after DNA evidence showed they were not guilty. This helped build trust in forensic science and showed how powerful and important it had become. During this time, computers also started to play a big role in forensic science. Investigators could now store large amounts of data and compare evidence more quickly. DNA databases were created where genetic information from known criminals was kept. When new evidence was found, it could be compared to these records to find matches. This made investigations faster and more efficient. It also helped connect crimes that happened in different places. In addition to DNA, other advanced techniques were developed. Forensic scientists improved the way they studied bloodstains. They could now examine the shape and pattern of blood at a crime scene to understand what happened. This is called bloodstain pattern analysis. It helped investigators know if a victim was attacked, how the attack happened, and even where the attacker might have been standing. Technology also improved the study of trace evidence. Very small items, like fibers from clothing, glass pieces, or tiny particles, could be examined using powerful microscopes. These small details could link a suspect to a crime scene. For example, a fiber from a carpet in a suspect's home could be found on a victim's clothing. This kind of evidence, though small, could be very important in solving a case. Another important area that grew during this time was forensic anthropology. Experts studied human bones to learn about a person's age, gender, and cause of death. This was especially useful in cases where bodies were badly damaged or could not be identified easily. These experts helped give names back to unknown victims and provided answers to families. Even though forensic science had become more advanced, it still required careful handling. Mistakes could happen if evidence was not collected or tested properly. Because of this, strict rules and procedures were created to ensure accuracy. Scientists and investigators had to follow these rules closely to make sure their findings were reliable. By the end of the late 1900s, forensic science had become a strong and trusted part of the justice system. With the power of DNA and new technologies, solving crimes became more precise than ever before. However, science was still growing, and new discoveries were on the horizon, ready to push forensic investigation into an even more advanced and modern age. In the modern day, forensic science has become more advanced than ever before. Technology has changed the way crimes are investigated, making the process faster, more accurate, and more reliable. Today, investigators use powerful tools such as computers, digital systems, and highly advanced laboratory equipment. These tools help them collect, study, and understand evidence in ways that were not possible in the past. Forensic science is now a key part of the justice system in many countries around the world. One of the biggest changes in modern forensic science is the use of digital forensics. As technology has grown, many crimes now involve computers, phones, and the internet. Investigators can examine emails, messages, and online activity to find evidence. Even deleted information can sometimes be recovered. This helps solve crimes like fraud, hacking, and identity theft. Digital forensics has become just as important as studying physical evidence like blood or fingerprints. DNA technology has also continued to improve. Scientists can now get results faster and from even smaller samples. New methods allow them to create detailed DNA profiles that can be compared quickly using large databases. This helps identify suspects in a short time. It also helps in identifying missing persons and victims of disasters. DNA has become one of the most trusted forms of evidence because of its high level of accuracy. Another important development is the use of artificial intelligence and advanced software. These systems can help analyze large amounts of data in a short time. For example, they can study patterns in crimes, recognize faces, or match fingerprints more quickly than humans. This does not replace investigators, but supports them by making their work easier and faster. It allows them to focus on important decisions while the technology handles complex data. Modern forensic science also includes new ways of studying crime scenes. 3D scanning and imaging can create detailed models of crime scenes. This allows investigators to examine the scene even after they have left it. It also helps in court, where judges and juries can see a clear picture of what happened. These visual tools make it easier for everyone to understand the evidence. Forensic science is also becoming more careful and fair. Experts now understand the importance of handling evidence properly and avoiding mistakes. There are strict rules that must be followed to ensure that results are accurate. This helps protect innocent people and ensures that justice is served correctly. Training and education have improved, and forensic scientists are now highly skilled professionals. Looking toward the future, forensic science is expected to grow even more. New technologies are being developed that may allow investigators to solve crimes that are currently very difficult. For example, scientists are working on better ways to study genetic information, improve facial recognition, and even predict certain patterns of crime. These ideas may seem advanced, but they show how far forensic science can go. Even with all these advancements, the main goal of forensic science remains the same: to find the truth. It continues to help solve crimes, protect the innocent, and bring justice to society. As technology continues to improve, forensic science will keep evolving, opening new possibilities and making investigations even more powerful than before.